Welcome to episode 4 of SEO in the Shed with me, Jon Earnshaw, the Chief Product Evangelist at Datametrics. Today, I'm going to be talking about voice search, or to be more precise, I'm going to be looking at why we shouldn't forget about voice search. Now, I've divided this video into 3 sections. In the first part, I'm going to look at what's happened to voice and particularly interest in voice search. Secondly, I'm going to discuss some brand new research that we undertook over the summer. And then finally, I'm going to discuss some super interesting conclusions that we came to. So, 3 years ago, I remember standing at a conference saying that we were at the tipping point between the past and the future, the tipping point between the use of the keyword game and the use of voice search, the tipping point between good visibility and revenue, and between poor visibility and loss of revenue as people switched over from keyword to voice. And then it all went quiet, and people kind of lost interest and stopped asking questions about voice search. And then I saw this chart. What are we looking at here? This shows the interest in voice search over the past 3 years. People searching for terms related to voice search, in particular voice search SEO. You can see a significant decline there. But at the same time as that, what we're seeing in this chart is that the adoption rate of smart speakers has surpassed every other recent piece of related technology: smartphones, TVs, internet, computers, even radio. So in around 4 years, up to 50% of households in the US have now got a smart speaker, something they can talk to, something they can have a conversation with, and something that they can actually search with as well. So what's been going on? Turns out an awful lot's been going on since the start of this year. What we can see in this chart, this is a comparative index. We're looking at half a dozen websites here that happen to be in the your money or your life space. So these are websites that are super impacted by algorithmic updates. We got Core 1, 2nd of March, Core 2, 12th of June. We had quite a significant unnamed update there, late September, and then we had Core 3, which I think was September 24, and then finally that last dip, probably coincidence, but that was 24th of October, in line with BERT. I'm going to talk about BERT twice more in this video because he's kind of crucial to what's been going on and what we discovered in our research. Something else that's been going on, Google's been working super hard to try and ensure that the SERP is a true reflection of searcher intent. And in this SERP Explorer view here, we can see that on a 24-day period, the SERP is littered with carousels, with text ads, with answer cards, with people also ask, with video carousels, etc. And of course, lots of classic links. The SERP is more feature-rich than any time before. And what does this mean? Well, one thing it means we can throw away the old click-through curve that doesn't apply anymore to this changed landscape. We've got something more akin to a pinball. Now this is from Nielsen Norman, and as we can see in this particular SERP here, when you search for something, your eyes no longer go down 33%, 15%, 5%, but they might jump from position 1 straight across to the knowledge card in this case, then down to videos, and then into that rabbit's warren of people also ask. And once you get into there, sometimes you can get super lost. And then finally, the most interesting update probably of the past few years is BERT, bidirectional encoder representations from transformers. Okay, Google is starting to make sense of conversation. Okay, we decided to do some research, so we teamed up this summer with researchers from the University of Hertfordshire, and we aimed to try and understand 3 things. Firstly, what are people's attitudes towards voice search like? What do they think of it? How do they use it? What do they think of the results? Okay. Secondly, we wanted to understand the impact on the SERP landscape, particularly from a feature perspective. And then finally, how different are the results of voice queries that have the same intent as keyword queries? And this is critical to understand. So one of the first things that we quickly understood was that when people use voice, their queries are generally more ambiguous and they are certainly longer, over twice the length. Next, and I thought this was super interesting, okay, we asked people how satisfied they were with the results of their queries, and these were all done on mobile phones. It turns out that the longer the query, the more satisfied people were with the results. There is a direct correlation, as you can see here, between query length and level of satisfaction. People were overall 26% more satisfied with results from a voice query. And also, when we spoke with the people after the study, it turns out that they were always more likely to make a purchase. Voice searches always result in a higher propensity to purchase, certainly as far as our study went. And people who had never used voice search before, 77% of people said they would definitely use it in the future. They said the results were surprisingly good, and you could ask more creative questions. What about the SERPs? Let's take a look at one query for designer cocktail dresses. That's a keyword query. Here we can see a SERP without too many features. You've got some images below the fold, and that's pretty much about it. And then we asked that same searcher to use voice. Show me this season's best designer cocktail dresses. The intent is the same. This searcher wanted to find the same thing. But what can we see here? Lots more features. We got people also ask, we got images, we got text ads, we got product listed ads. And this happened time and time again when we compared keyword searches with voice searches. Here you can see some of those people also ask questions. Again, critical to gather those, to monitor those over time, to really understand the intent of your customers. So, question, how does this impact a brand? We'll take a look at one brand for those same two searches. Okay, Harvey Nicks for the keyword search, doing pretty well. Positions 1, position 2, position 3, a little bit of volatility there. Now, as soon as we switch to their performance for that voice query, their visibility drops. It drops by on average 6 positions. Now that's something that they are going to notice if their customers stop doing this, start to pick up their phone and start using their voice. Remember, intent is the same. So it goes without saying that just because you position really well for keywords doesn't mean that you're going to do just as well or just the same for voice. So what about the SERP differential? This is where it gets really interesting. So what do we expect? We expected that over the past few years, with Hummingbird working away in the background, disambiguating complex queries, we expected the voice results to be very similar to the keyword results. After all, the intent is the same. What do we discover? Well, they were actually very different. There's an 80% difference on page 1, and in the top 100, a 73% difference. So we then got to thinking, how does this difference change over time? What we expected that from 4 years ago to today, the results would have been getting more and more similar. Again, the intent's the same. Google's getting better at understanding the intent. So as you can see here, we kind of expected those SERPs to start to overlap. What do we get? No, it went the other way. The voice results were actually getting more and more different. Despite the differential increasing, people are much more satisfied with the results of voice search. The only sensible conclusion that we could reach that Google's been focusing its attention on conversational search. So at that time, when we came up with that conclusion, we thought we'd gone mad. But after a week or a week after we came to those conclusions, guess what happened? Well, it's BERT. Back again. Finally, it all makes sense. BERT was announced just a week or two after we completed that research, with Google admitting that they find it easier to understand conversational queries than they do keyword queries. So what does this mean? Well, if you're a brand, you need to start to think now about your customers, how likely they are to use voice search, and if they are to do so, what sort of queries are they going to be using? How is this going to change their query structure? And the second thing you need to start thinking about doing is monitoring your performance for voice alongside your performance for keywords. There are lots of links below. Sign up to my newsletter, don't forget to do that. You can follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. There are links to an accompanying blog post and also links where you can download a white paper. So thanks for watching.